Shalom to all, and today we're studying about the month of Heshvan, Scorpio. The Hebrew name of Heshvan is usually in the traditional concept is Mar Heshvan, while the word Mar means bitterness, which means the bitter Heshvan. There's some bitterness in this month, and I don't know how many Scorpio people do you know, but they like their drinks stinging, which means they like it, not just the drinks, their food, their lives with a sting, with a bitter sting into it, because they don't like it flat. They don't care for flat, not just flat drinks, but also flat people, boring people, comfortable people. The common Scorpio loves when things are bitter, when things are biting, when things are exciting, when things are and exciting on the fringe of normal. So, what makes people of the sign of Scorpio so special? They can't stand mediocrity. They can't stand average people. They can't stand boring people. They can't stand boring life. They have this destructive force inside them to destroy everything in order to build something else, just not to be stuck in something that is so mediocre and so average. And also, the month is, in generality, since all of us are somehow more or less uh, being infused with that energy of Scorpio, therefore, the months of Scorpio are always very, very interesting. You have a lot of tumultuous things happening in the months of Scorpio. And it's a month with one thing that you can tell about Scorpio people, intense, and you can tell about the month of Scorpio. It is an intense month. So, embrace yourself and we go into the journey of what makes this month so intense. Intense sometimes to the edge of collapse, destruction, falling apart, and so on. So let us start with the journey into the secrets of the month of Scorpio, Mar Heshvan. So to start with first of all, with the rational explanation that Kabbalah is very rational. Kabbalah is, one hand, it talks about spiritual light that is beyond the rational brain. On the other hand, it talks about that all of that has rationality, and you just nothing in this world is beyond reason. It's just a matter how do you define reason, and that's not where science today still is. It's developing towards that area, and let us start with the chart that will explain to us the basic definition of the sign of Scorpio. So first of all, when we look at the zodiac chart, it is divided into four equal quarters, which basically known to everybody as the four seasons. Why? When we talk about the planet Earth, and the planet Earth is circling around the sun, but remember the circle is not a complete circle, it is elliptic. And because of that, it creates a very, and also because the axis of the planet Earth is moving, and it's on it is tilted, and therefore you have a very four distinct seasons, and that you can, it's very simple to realize it. So the Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar, which means like all the calendars that I know of in the Far East, the calendar, the Hebrew calendar is also lunisolar. What does it mean, lunisolar? Luni comes from the word luna, moon. You count the dates according to the moons, which means the major events in the month are either in the new moon or in the full moon. So you can find, let's say the Chinese New Year starts in a new moon and it continues till the full moon, usually in the Hebrew month of Shevat. Sometimes Adar Aleph, because in order to have a lunisolar calendar, you have to have a cycle of 19 years. And every 19 years, you need to add 7 moons in order for the cycle of the months of the will coincide with the seasons. What does it mean? Let's start with the Hebrew calendar. The Hebrew calendar, the main law of the Hebrew calendar is the Passover must be in the spring. Now, if you look at the Muslim calendar, which is only lunar, because 12 moons are 355 days, and a full year, a solar year, is 364 and something. So you are basically behind 10 days every year. So therefore, the holidays in the Muslim calendar are basically moving backwards around 10 days every year. And therefore you can find so the holidays can fall once in the spring, and after a while it falls into the summer, and then it will fall into the winter, and then backwards to the fall, and then to the summer. So that's how it's moving. But as I said, the Hebrew calendar, as the Far Eastern calendars, lunisolar, you need to add 7 months in every cycle of 19 years. So if you add 7 moons every 19 years, you get exactly 19 solar years. So therefore, your Hebrew birthday will, every 19 years, will coincide with your solar birthday. Okay, so I hope you got that idea. And so what you get is that the lunisolar calendar usually has 4 axes, which means although the moons are moving relatively to the sun back and forth, okay? So, that's why they say that the Jewish holidays never come on time. Sometimes they're too early, sometimes they're too late. You can have Rosh Hashanah sometimes in September, sometimes in October, but it will never be in November, it will never be in August, okay? It will just fluctuate around a certain axis. And what's the axis? The axis is March 21st, which is the equinox, that the spring in the northern hemisphere, day and night are equal. Passover will never fall before the equinox, which is March 21st. Why? Because it's a holiday of the spring. And there, as the Bible is telling us, if Passover falls before March 21st, it's in the winter. Okay, so you have the equinox, which is the March 21st, September 21st, which is the day and night are equal. And you have the longest day on the June 21st, if I'm not mistaken, and the shortest day on December 21st. So these 4 axes are called the tkufa, which is in the Hebrew calendar. They're very, very important. In ancient times, it was much more important than today. They were announced and so on, because you have that awareness that we're playing a game between the moon and the sun. Why do you need to play a game between the moon and the sun? You have to ask the question, why did God create the game in that place? And the answer is very simple. The moon is the symbol of humanity. Humanity is like the moon. We have no light of our own. We have the light that we reflect from the source of light, which means you don't have any light as a human being. Don't even think you are a deity. You don't originate the light, but the light you've got is what you do with the light that you receive from the Creator. In this case, the sun is a symbol for the Creator, and the moon symbol for the creation. So the light, the sun of the light of the sun is constant. It's always shining. Same way, the light of the Creator is constant, always shining. However, the moon has its ups and downs. With new moon, it's like the moon is just seconds before it's totally dark, right? And then it goes to 15 days of the moon is growing bigger and bigger and bigger till it becomes a full moon in the 15th of the Hebrew month. And that means, and that's why you have also in many major holidays, if you go all over in either in the Chinese civilization, all the different uh, civilizations around the Indian subcontinent, or in the Indochina, like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, all of them, you have the major holidays either in a full moon and usually in the full moon, or usually in full moon and either on a new moon. So why is it so important? Because it's all about that we're living in a world that the heavens, as we read in the book of Genesis, when it says on the fourth day of the creation that the stars and the zodiac signs, they were created to be signs, otot. In English, it's the same word, signs. And otot for what? For the forces that the Creator is illuminating towards us, which means it's not that the Creator is changing, like the sun is never changing, but the earth is a different angle, and therefore the earth is exposed to different forces, and we are part of the earth, we are being affected by these forces. So those forces force us into this journey of ongoing transformation, growth, dealing with challenges, using the challenges, taking the wave, riding it, and if not, being drowned by it till you learn to ride the waves, and you become that's how you become a spiritual human being. Instead of being a victim of what's happening around you, astrologically, politically, economically, health-wise, whatever, you start to learn to ride the waves and use them for your benefit. It's all a matter of choice that we have to make daily, hourly, sometimes even by the minute. Okay, so when we understand that the four seasons, they represent the four elements of the creation. We're not talking about the Mendeleev table of elements. We're talking about the four basic forces that the whole universe is made of. You have the plus force that in the atom is being represented by the proton, the minus force, which is represented by the electron, or the balancing force, which is the neutron, neutral, and the force holding all of them together, which is today known as the godly particle, the Higgs field, that is holding all of it together. So the plus force, that is being represented as the element of water. The minus force, and here it is, you can find the water in the summer. The minus force, the negative, this is the fire. So this is the spring. Okay, then you have the balancing force, the neutral force that allows the two to circle around each other in balance, and that is the neutron. That's a neutral that is symbolized by the air element. So again, when we speak about the fire element, we're not talking about the chemical reaction that scientists call fire. When we talk about the water element, we're not talking about H2O. Okay, when we talk about the air, we're not talking about that mixture of gases that we breathe for our life. We're talking about symbolic forces that the ancients used all over the planet. And when we're talking about the earth element, we're talking about that what the scientists are calling the godly particle of the Higgs field that's holding the electrons, the neutrons, the protons together. And as I don't know if you learned nuclear physics, they don't like to be together. How do you know? When you release them, they make a big party that is called a nuclear explosion. Okay? So these four forces are basically, or they basically originate from the basic forces of the creation. They manifest in physics. They manifest in the structure of the zodiac signs. And basically they manifest in our own souls, which means here we're talking about how those forces manifest in our patterns of feelings, emotions, uh, nature, all of it together. Now, so there are the stars affecting us? And the answer is by the Kabbalists, no, they do not affect us. So why? So, how can you say that the constellation of stars that are millions of years away from us, they affect our behavior? And the Zohar says, no, they don't. They don't affect our behavior. But the Creator created them in a way that we humans can look at the stars and extrapolate from the way the stars are put in the heavens, and we can understand about what's happening with us. I'll explain. The Zohar says it's like the face. When somebody has emotions, most people, they express their emotions by their facial expressions. Do we feel with our face? No, we don't. Where do we feel? It's a brain, it's a heart, it's a gut feeling. There's a lot of feeling is something very complex. You don't feel in your teeth or in your cheeks, but you express it with all kinds of changes in your facial muscles. So when you want to know how does a person feel, you look at their face. And in Hebrew, the word for face is panim, which is the same letters as pnim, inside. So the face reflects what's inside. So that's what the Zohar is saying. The Creator created the universe in a way that when we look at the stars, we understand what kind of waves, frequencies planet Earth is going through in order to understand those wavelengths that we are exposed to, but we cannot see them. Same, we cannot see radio waves. Science acknowledged, in thousands of years of human history, how long do we know about radio waves? Like such a little tiny bit. How many, what about the Higgs field? We know about it only very short time. They claim they saw a reaction that is a proof for its existence 2012, I think. That's only 10, 11 years. This is only recent. Where were we all the time? So the fact that we say there are fields, other fields that science does not recognize yet, okay, science is very young. Science, the way we know it, with all of this, the amazing discoveries, that's a matter of very few centuries. We're just in the beginning. In the beginning, we didn't find everything yet. I'm sorry. Whoever thinks science knows it all, I have some news for you. Somehow, somebody had an agenda to tell you that we know everything. No, we know so little yet. We're starting to realize how little we know. That's, by the way, According to Socrates, just the definition of wisdom. The moment you start to realize that with all the information you've collected, you know so little, you are welcome to the area that is called being a wise person. You know, dumb people, they think they know all. And if they don't know all, the other people know everything and they told me already what's right and what's wrong. And I don't have to study. I already know it. I don't have to delve into it. Okay, so humility is very important to be a true wise person. So there are those waves, and the creator created the signs in order. And by the way, in Hebrew, otot means frequency, uh, wavelength. That's the same word. So the invisible frequencies that we go through every month, we can get the idea they are there through the zodiac constellations. They're not there because they're affecting us. They're there like road signs that tell you, now you slow, now you go faster, now it's time to stop, now it's time to go on. Same way the creator created those road signs, and they're called the zodiac signs, in order to help us find our way in the darkness of our blindness. Okay, so when we are talking about the sign of Scorpio, here we have some basic ideas that Kabbalah is teaching us how to analyze the forces that are being that in that soup. Modern scientists today say if you really want to understand how the universe looks like, it's a soup of many frequencies and energies that we have. By the way, we are part of that soup. Okay, so now this is another level of the soup, so you understand when the soup is cold or hot, wavy, or tranquil, you can see it through the zodiac signs. So it's a different approach, but that's a Kabbalistic idea. And it starts to coincide with modern wisdom of modern science. If you really take all modern science and you turn it into wisdom, the sky is the limit. There's so much information, just have to learn how to put it together. Okay, so first of all, what do we know? Scorpio is a second sign in the fall. So what is the fall about? The fall is about the letter Vav in the Hebrew tetragrammaton, the name of God, which represents the four forces of creation. And that means that the Sephirah of Zeranpin, the element is air, it's about intellect, it's about balance. Okay, so first of all, we know from that all three signs in the fall are very smart kind of people usually, very intellectual. They are being drawn to wisdom, and each one of them is using wisdom in a different way. For instance, Libra will use wisdom because they marvel the beauty of wisdom, and they're sensitive to wisdom and balance and all what entails with it. Okay, so that is Libra. And Libra is also affected by Venus, and Venus is that ability of a human being to marvel nature as a piece of art, to see the balance, to see how things coincide, and to be able to look at everything as art and as a pleasure of poetry. Okay, Scorpio, something else. Scorpio, that's another totally a different idea. For Scorpio, wisdom is about power. For Scorpio, everything is about power, and we'll see why soon. Sagittarius, they see it very much like Libra, but from a different aspect. And it's also it's a way to see the world as the beauty of wisdom, of art and music, and they're very like into that beauty. Scorpio, as we said, this is something very, very different, and let's see why. So, first of all, air, intellect, and sensitivity to balance, or more than that, sensitivity to imbalance, which means all three sides are very sensitive to imbalance. All of them will make actions to bring balance back again. The Libra can do it with, let's say, being diplomats, being healers, uh, being people who take care of all what is needed in order to bring things back into order. They see balance, and beauty is a matter of balance. So if you realize that the air is about beauty, because air is about balance, it's about balance between the forces. By the way, Libra is a scale. In the Latin languages, Libra is balance. The word is balance, basically. Balance, how you say it in the French or something like this. It's all about balance, and that's why you'll find these people getting really hurt when things go out of balance. They'll do everything in order to balance it. Okay, Scorpio, although in one hand, they're very sensitive to injustice, to imbalance, but they will react very differently. Let's see why. Because first of all, realize that's the first layer of defining Scorpios. Being smart, appreciate wisdom, and really care for balance and being very sensitive about it. It's also a water sign. And water is about emotions. Emotions and deep emotions. It's about giving. It's about giving and giving with emotions. This is water. But there's another thing. Scorpio is a second sign of the fall, and every sign has this order: right, Libra; left, Scorpio; center, Sagittarius. What does it mean, left? Left means fire, always. Which means Scorpio, it has three major forces beneath the surface. Air, because it's in the fall. Fire, because it's a second sign of the fall. Water, because it's a water sign. Like in conventional astrology, everybody knows Scorpio is water. So what is the fire giving to Scorpio? You know Scorpio, you know exactly what I'm saying. Fire is about, fire is a reaction. Fire is energy. Fire is about moving forward. Fire is about consuming, is about taking. Fire is about selfishness. All of these verbs that I just used, or the nouns I just used, all of them are playing a very, very peculiar game that you put it together, you get Scorpios on one hand, very sensitive to balance and very sensitive to wisdom and very appreciative to the power of wisdom and balance. But power that's coming from the mixture between fire and water. Emotions on one hand, and fire, which is always consuming. The moment fire stops consuming, it's dead. So all of that gives us a very powerful mixture that can be either explosive or constructive. So let us see what other forces do we have involved with Scorpio. Okay, so one of the ways to look at the sign is that we realize that in the book of Genesis, and then a lot in the book of Numbers, the concept of the 12 tribes of Israel repeats itself again and again. Why do we care? that happened so many centuries ago. Why is that important? And the answer is that the Zohar is teaching us that the 12 sons of Israel, they, the same way that Abraham represent the cosmic force of water, and Isaac is the cosmic force of fire, and Jacob the cosmic force of air, right? So when we're talking about the 12 signs, the 12 sons of Jacob, we're talking about the 12 signs of the zodiac and what they mean. So if we look at the tribe that is connected to Heshvan, the two systems, I prefer to use the first system, which means according to the order of their birth. And according to that, we're talking about the tribe of Dan. And the tribe of Dan, one of the most famous stories connected to the tribe of Dan is Samson. Samson was the strong man, the strongest man maybe ever, according to the Bible, the book of Judges. It's all, but you look at his life, it's all about passion. Any passion, like there's a violence that is there. On one hand, he is a monk, he's a Nazir. You know, I forget the word monk. The word he in Hebrew is Nazir. There's no, I don't think there's a word for it in English. That's a Hebrew word, not a Nazir. Nazir means somebody that is refraining from drinking wine and cut his hair. That's a Nazir of the biblical law. Okay? And Solomon was born like this, and the secret of his power was his hair. And when the Philistines realized that, because Delilah seduced Samson, and she seduced him to the way to take the secret out of him, and the secret that his power is his hair. And when they cut his hair, he lost his power, and then they took him into captivity. But he took the revenge. And when they tied him to the temple of Gaza, Gaza still in the news, read the book of Judges. And they were celebrating that they took in captivity the big hero of the Israelites that basically made a mess out of their army. And when they were celebrating with terrible, like idol worshiping celebration, and Samson prayed to God, please give me power just once more. And then he said, Tamot nafshim plishtim. Let me just die with the Philistines. That will be my comfort. And he shook the pillars of the temple, and the temple collapsed and killed so many people. He died also, but that was his revenge. Such a Scorpio story. Power, sex, revenge, violence, control, and also, like the legend says about Scorpios, that they have the tendency to suicide, to kill themselves when they're in trouble. And here Samson is killing himself just to kill his enemies, the people of Gaza. So, you know, Gaza was already in the ancient times connected to stories of passion, revenge, hatred, fight, and terrible violence. And it was a tribe of Dan that was the major interaction among the tribes of Israel with the people of Gaza. So if you understand, all of these stories are basically trying to let you delve into that frequency of what we call the sign of Scorpio. Okay, so how do we deal with that? We have few more components. If you read the book of formation, Sefer Yetzirah, which is by tradition a book that was created by Abraham, the patriarch, passed down the generations for many centuries, till Rabbi Akiva wrote it down in around the first century. That's how Jewish tradition is talking about this book. And this book is basically speaking about the forces creating reality that we know. And it speaks about the Hebrew letters, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, that again, every letter in Hebrew is called ot. Again, a sign, a signal. Remember, sign, you have in the word sign, S-I-G-N, signal. Okay, it's the same word in Hebrew also. It's a force, it's a signal, it's a frequency. So what is Abraham teaching us? That the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are basically representing in the physical dimension frequencies of the spiritual dimension. Like not subatomic, subatomic. So we have two letters for every sign. So when playing with these letters, we can understand better that sign. So for the sign of Scorpio, we have the letter Nun, Nun. And for the planet of Mars, Ma'adim in Hebrew, you have the letter Dalit. Okay. Dalit and Nun gives you Dan. Dan, and by the way, Dan means in Hebrew judge, to judge. So it's judgment. So we know Scorpio is a lot about judgment. Whoever lived with a Scorpio, worked with a Scorpio, was in a close relationship with a Scorpio, know a lot of judgment. Now that judgment can go to kill or to save, but it's a lot of judgment, a lot of power. And exactly the story of Samson is just one part of it. So what do we need to know about these two letters? So when we're speaking about the letter Nun is, there's a lot about that letter, but one of them is about falling. Even the English word fall, it's very similar, the sound of the verb, the Hebrew word nafol. Nafol and fall is the same verb. But there's a nun in the beginning in the Hebrew. Nafol means to fall. And the nun in Jewish wisdom, nun symbolize falling. So sometimes it falls and disappears, and then what's left, it just fall. But where is the nun? Fell. It's not there. You can't see it because it fell. Okay? So it's not a joke. It's like I'm telling it to get you the feel of what nun is about. It's about falling. Crisis. Think about it. 1929, the whole civilization that started to be created at the end of World War I, which in the early 20s, that was an eruption of building, money, power, especially the stock market. And that fell, collapsed, crashed so many, the world economy. When? On the month of Scorpio, 1929. Scorpio. The main crash in, I think the stock market again crashed again big time in 87. It was also Scorpio. 2008, that was also during Scorpio. The Israeli stock market crashed and all the banking system in 83 in Scorpio. The sages are saying many places, this month is a month that things do collapse. When we're talking about the Soviet communist revolution, the Bolshevik revolution, that was on Scorpio. And that was the birth of the Soviet empire was in Scorpio. It was such a Scorpio, all about, on one hand, pure logic, wisdom, that human being created a wisdom in which will bring the whole world into balance and harmony. Okay, the fight, but it was so Scorpio, which means kill, destroy, annihilate, eliminate all the old regime and whatever is connected to it, including killing, destroying all structure of the previous regimes, killing hundreds of millions of people. Okay, that was such a Scorpio revolution. And by the way, when you get a Scorpio angry, they will never scream and yell. They don't know how to scream and yell. They put you in the freezer and you'll die over there. They freeze you to death. The Zohar said that's a hell of snow. And you know, the Soviets, where did they send the enemy of communism? To Siberia, into biggest freezing box on the planet. Okay, so, and everything is so secretive. The power of Scorpio is holding information, holding it in secret, and that's how they control you. I'll give you a tip. If you want to get the secrets out of the Scorpio, you have to play a game in which you don't care about the secret. Because they care so much about the power, the only way they can experience the power now is to tell you the secret. Okay? If you make a big deal out of tell me the secret, they'll never tell you because they lose the power at that moment. But the moment you make yourself ignore the secret like you don't care about it, they'll have to tell you the secret because they need their need to feel power is this is a survival for them to feel power. And the Soviet Union was all about power, 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 and more power. But it fell. That's how. And who collapsed the Soviet regime? Itself, like Scorpios. You know, they're so powerful. You cannot fight them. Don't even, I don't recommend. You'll only suffer. The only way is let them kill themselves. So if they go on the negative side. So the Nun is about falling, and Scorpios are about when they fall, they do it big. Okay. However, you know, in every disease, there's already a remedy. When you have in the Torah in Parashat Ba'alotcha, where one of the most powerful verses, Vayi binso Aaron vayom Moshe, when the ark was traveling, Moses said, Kuma Adonai ve'afutz ovecha. Raise up God and all your enemies will run into the different corners of the earth. Around this verse, that in the Torah itself, there are two nuns, but reverse, backwards. If nun is a falling, reverse nun is the antidote for falling. What's the power to reverse the fall? That's when the ark is moving, when we get the power of the wisdom, the spiritual wisdom, the power of the tree of life, the Torah, to move, then we can reverse the fall into the rise. So therefore, let's go back to the chart. Something that is very important to realize. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, there is an amazing, very powerful description that with today's imagination, people see it as an alien, a starship landing on Earth, but it's not. You know, I have to get everybody disappointed. It's about a spiritual chart. It's called the chariot, not chart, a chariot. This is the chariot of Ezekiel, which is the chariot of the gods, but its basic chariot comes from the French word charet, which means composition, to compose. In Hebrew, merkava, to compose, to bring together all the forces, which means in the revelation of chapter 1 in Ezekiel, there are many, many secrets how the universe is composed. What are the elements composed over there? One of the major elements is the four holy beasts. Arba Chayot HaKodesh, where it says that the face of it has four faces. The face of a lion to the right, okay? Now, if you look at the summer, okay, which is the right column, water, in the middle of the summer, you have what they call in astrology, Western astrology, the fixed sign is Leo, the lion. In the spring, which is fire, left column, in the fixed sign of the spring, the middle sign is Taurus, the ox. Then you have in the fall, you have the middle one is a Scorpio. But in the facing the middle air, that's in the chart of Ezekiel, the eagle. So you have in some aspects of the wisdom of astrology that the Scorpio has two aspects. When it's a fallen stage, it is a Scorpio. The Scorpio is blind. You know, if you're talking about the concept, the Scorpio is blind hate, blind poison. When a Scorpio gets close to you, no matter what you're doing, even if you're in the middle of a prayer, run away for your life, because Scorpios cannot see. We're talking about the poison of the Scorpion. When it's a falling noon, and they get emotional, the urge for power, the emotions of water, and the power of fire over there, it's explosive. And they're deadly. And that's why Scorpios, they have this power to kill, you know, that like the famous story about that frog, or some versions, a turtle that wanted to cross the river, and then a scorpion came and asked, can you please take me across the river? I cannot swim. But you're going to bite me. You're going to kill me. How am I going to kill you? If I kill you, I will drown. No, I know you. You Scorpios, you don't think. You just kill because you feel like. You don't think about the consequences. No. Finally, the Scorpios are very, very, they have the power of to convince you. They're very powerful. Okay, so the Scorpio convinces the frog or the turtle, depends on the version, to take them on the back. And as they swim across the river, they feel this thing coming in. Just before they die and drown, they ask, but why? Because I'm a Scorpio. What can I say? Can't help it. So that's the fallen aspect, the Scorpio. But when you turn the noon backwards, you turn the effect, the Scorpio can become the eagle that soars to the heavens, that has the sight no one has, that has the ability to create balance. Nobody can. That has the ability to see the big picture like no one can see. So Scorpios have this wisdom. When they can overcome their emotional tumultuous nature, overcome their either lust or pain or misery, or another thing about the Scorpio, they have a very powerful ability to focus on one thing. And when I focus on one thing, like everything is dead. You know, once I said next to somebody, and she said, that was a Shabbat, and we were in a beautiful, nice Shabbat. And somebody said, if I don't eat a watermelon right now, I'll die. I said, are you a Scorpio? He said, how did you know? You know, only a Scorpio can talk with such passion about everything they do. Even eating a watermelon is a matter of life and death. They're deadly serious. And I mean both deadly and serious. It's like, you have to remember that. So the power, the moment they are being focused on how terrible things are, everything is dead. That's the suicidal thoughts they have. If they can overcome that and turn the noon around and see it from the point of view of an eagle, they can soar to the heavens and see a picture that no one can see. Their wisdom will be like nobody has. And as we said, that because of their secrecy, they also can be very well working in the intelligence. So a little bit about Scorpio. Let's go back to another thing. Where is the drive of the Scorpio? And that we can find in the Hebrew letter Daled for Mars. Planet Mars in Hebrew is called Ma'adim, or in another word, in the simplest translation, the red planet. Red. Red means negative. You know, if you have red on your chart, on your bank account, it's negative, right? And what does it mean negative? Look at the Hebrew letter Dalit. If you look at the Hebrew letter Dalit, you see just on the right from the word Mars. And you see the letter is kind of hanging on a limb, which means it's very hard to balance and it's empty within. Dalit means in Hebrew, you know, it's like where the Rick letter delta, it's coming from the Hebrew Dalit, a door. So the D or the delta, they still look like a door. But in Hebrew, if you look at it, you just have the outline of a door, but you see it's empty within. Dalet in Hebrew means poverty, lack. Who goes into war? Hungry people. People with nothing to lose. People who are satiated, full, and complacent don't go into war. You need to push them around a lot till they get ready to think it's a war. Why? Why should I get out of my golf game and all of that? I'm too comfortable. I'm not going to fight. Fight for what? Only if you take away everything. So Mars is the source energy of Mars is lack. That's why it's a planet of wars. That's why it's red and bloody. That's why it's so passionate. That's why it instills into Scorpio that warlike passion. For them, making a dinner is a war. It's like everything is a war. It's a journey, but not a journey from the point of view of creating a project. It's a challenge. It's spicy and it's bitter, and it has this like pungent taste, and that's why they don't like flat taste. They need it pungent. They need it with the acid inside. So when it says in the Book of Formation about the letter Dalet, that it's connected, it created Mars in the physical realm, which means we're not talking about planet Mars. It's just a physical manifestation. We're talking about that force that is called Mars in our lives, in every person's life. And it says about courage. I'm reading right now one of the most amazing commentaries that was written by the Rabbi Avraham ben David of Posquiers. I think it was 13th century or 14th century, if I'm not mistaken, in Spain. And he shows about אמיץ לב, courage, קשה עורף, stubborn, אכזריות, cruelty, חיימה, rage, כעס, anger, רציחות, murder, מלחמות, wars, כי כן משפטי הגבורה ואסרי החיל. And about generals, שופכי דמים, blood splitters, whoever spills blood, דם חיה או דם אדם, the blood of animals, the blood of humans. כל מלאכה שיבוא באש מיוחס לו, and also every skill that is connected to fire. So you can find those people into, Scorpio will go into uh, war. It could be professional fighters, uh, into bloody stuff. They could be surgeons. Okay. Not every human being is capable of cutting other human beings peacefully, for even for health reasons, like being a surgeon. Most people I know will faint if they have to cut another human being. Okay. You need that certain Scorpio power. I'm not saying all surgeons are Scorpions, but they probably have a lot of Mars in their chart. So that could be a butcher, could be a shochet, somebody who kills the animal, could be also hunters, or could be people that are working with fire, blacksmith, the people who create, uh, uh, working with anything of fire. And that means also about the silversmith. The big fire is connected to Scorpio. And that is the frequency of gold, red pearls, everything red, called the Vardom. It's also because it is judgment. Din, judgment. Dan is about judging. They judge. They jump into judging so clearly. If you want them to know if they hate somebody, immediately they will tell you. Okay, they won't tell you all the secrets, but if they're close to you. Its judgment is also delay. So when Mars goes into a certain house in your chart, it can show about all of these forces coming into your chart, either killing, massacre, rage, anger, creativity. Fire is all about creativity. Rabbi Zakloria is saying you can look at the burning fire. You will never be bored looking at it. It's always creating itself anew. But it's also judgment. It can make things delay. Velo kol minei pachad, fear. Fear is fun for Scorpio. Those people that they love to get scared, to see horror movies, or to go on anything that is scary. They love the fear. And also, red, fire, that's also about getting drunk. It's all bloody. Ubeta bishul, and the kitchen, but not a private kitchen, big stuff kitchen. They could be also great cooks, great chefs, not cooks, chefs. Velo basar vadam, and he has also the meat, the red meat, and the blood, and the pungent spices, and the red wine. And from the side of judgment, very, very strong arousal towards any sexual encounters. But they like it on the dark side, on the fiery side, not on the romantic Venus side, which is all like pleasure and meditative, but they like it on the more sport-like side. And Veloa Kina Vasina has also the envy and the hatred that everybody knows that's very dangerous for your health and also the health of your mind. More listim, robbers, הרוגי החרב, deadly victims, wounds. Also, all of those on the other side, all of those medications that are bitter, hot, pungent, and so on. Also about dirt, it could be the blood of the period of a woman or the blood of the circumcision. It's all blood. See, you have two sides. Fever, heat. Fever is about heat. Okay? And the running away slaves. Why would they run away? Because you need the energy of Mars to have the guts to run away because you can't stand it anymore. punishments, drought. It's not easy. You realize it takes us into kind of a trance into it. So it's war, and it's ovens, and it's a Scorpio, and dangerous animals, and all. It's all about that stuff, and falling. So lying also. So and craziness with so much emotions. So Scorpio is a lot about these energies, and we need some comfort over here. So let me give you just to seal it with two comforting things. First of all, you see over here the tetragrammaton, and you see it's a that 12 possible permutations of the tetragrammaton. Each one of them is basically the frequency of one of the zodiac signs. The frequency that we have right now for Heshvan, Mar Heshvan, the bitter Heshvan, we have to sweeten up, is Vav He He Yud. And each one of these, according to the Tikkunei Zohar, has a verse somewhere in the Tanakh. For this, you have the verse in Deuteronomy 26, verses 15, 16. And it says, Udvash starts with a Vav, Hayom, that's a Hey, Hazeh, that's another Hey, Hashem, Yud, Vav, Hey, Hey, Yud. What does it say? And today, this day, this is the time to get it in the name of God into honey. I'm just trying to translate the message. Turn it into honey. It starts as bitter, but what is the mission of a human being? And we learn it from the story in the Zohar in which Rabbi Chia reaches heavens and he meets Rabbi Shimon over there. And there he learns that in heaven, there's a place only for the ones who turned the bitter into sweet and the darkness into light. When you realize that life is a war and you take it seriously, like Scorpio take every project seriously, you want the job to be done, give it to them. They'll make it happen. They'll kill some people on the way, but they make it happen. They focus, they do it, they have the hunger, and they do it because they want to do it, because they have passion for it. Okay? So what is the real job of a human being? Turning the bitterness, any bitterness, into sweet, any darkness into light. When a Scorpio can turn the noon around, he becomes from a scorpion, which is scary. And who loves scorpions? I don't know anyone who loves scorpions. Some crazy one, but Scorpio is fear, okay? But I'm talking about the animal, okay? The creep. Who loves the animal? But who doesn't admire the eagle, the king of all the heaven, the skies? So that's how the Scorpio turned it around. When you turn the bitterness into sweet, the darkness into light, when you make the journey of life serious, you take it serious, and Scorpio, they take everything serious, too serious sometimes. How do you rule that sign when you have the name of 42 letters that is concealed into the prayer of Anna Bechoach? The third line, Na Gibor Dorshei Yechudecha Kevavat Shobrem. The initials, Nun Gimel Daled Yud Kaf Shin. That is, these initials, Nun Gimel Daled Yud Kaf Shin, have the power to rule over Mars, to rule over Scorpio, and to create, according to the Zohar, Tikkunei Zohar, miracles. What's a miracle? When you focus on the idea that you have to rise above the occasion, that you have to change and reinvent yourself again. No matter what, you have to reinvent yourself, even though it will kill you. If it doesn't kill you, it cannot be reborn, like the phoenix. Being reborn, Scorpios are so powerful about falling and being reborn again. And that is a Nun Gimel Daled Yud Kafshin. It's about that immense power to recreate your life, to create a miracle, to reinvent yourself, which means killing the old you and allowing the birth of the new you with all the blood that it intakes. So, wishing everybody, Scorpio is a very intense time. You know, we went, if the month of Tishrei, the previous one, the month of Libra, the Creator took each one of us apart, re-put it together. We all went through an overhaul. In this coming month, you know, after this, your car went through an overhaul, like really to the detail, to the root. Now you have to go through a stress test, and that's a month of Scorpio. Welcome to this big stress test, and especially this year, when the whole year is a big stress test. This is the stress test of the stress test. Embrace yourself, take it seriously, move forward. Falling, failing is not an option. Always aim high. When the end of this month, we will all be much, much, much better. I don't know how much of what we think is ourselves we're going to lose. Is going to be dead, lying by the side of the road. We leave it behind and move forward. You understand what I'm saying? Scorpio is a time to reinvent yourself. No matter how painful, dirty, and uncomfortable it's going to be. It's not about comfort. Scorpio are not looking for comfort. Comfort is about, it's boring them, annoys them. As I said, mediocrity, they love it. Hot, pungent, crazy, and warlike, and they like to create. So let's all use that to soar to the heavens and becoming eagles. Thank you so much. Chodesh Tov.